What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the lab. I'm your host, Joshua. Great to be here, and my favorite guest, as always, Mr. Chris McDonough of the Interview Room. How are you, Chris? Thank you for being here. Appreciate it very much.
Josh, you are the greatest.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
How are you tonight? I see that you're wearing a Red Sox hat, and I'll forgive you for that. I know that you were born in Beantown, and
have to represent.
Yeah.
They pack the can, the Boston have it.
Well, I was just telling you that the Giants are the best team in baseball at the moment.
What the heck? What was that? What was that noise?
It was a clown horn. That was you mocking my Giants, which I find. Look, they're going to win the World Series. It's just a matter. It's just are they going to sweep, or is it going to be 4-1? You know,
we'll see what happens. We'll see. You know, I don't know how many times you've been to the ballpark up there, right? If they hit it far enough, it goes into the drink, doesn't it? Go over the wall and into the drink.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah,
right. So, how many people have actually hit it over the wall? No, not very many.
Not very many. A few in 25 years. It's happened.
You know what? The green wall though in Fenway, you're not getting over that. The balls just bounce off, and it's just kind of this message of go home run.
It just bounces right off the wall like it's dong. I know. Fenway's a beautiful park. I tell you that. I was watching. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but I was watching a movie I think it was yesterday, or the day before, called The Town, and it's about the bank robbers in Charlestown. That because bank robbery was like a big thing in
the Brinks robbery.
Yeah,
Land, right?
I think yes, they were hitting armored trucks. Yeah, and I didn't know that Boston had such a history of that.
It did.
Yeah.
Years ago, it was in Dorchester. There was a big Brinks facility where they would bring the money for all the banks, and they hit them in the banks. O'Keefe was one of the guys. Speck O'Keefe, I think, was his name. I have to look him up, but I can do that here in 30 seconds. Give me 30 seconds. Go ahead while you're.
Because I've always Boston, like the crime world of Boston, has always fascinated me because it's just like between the Irish mafia, you know, Whitey Bulger, and then just these heists, you know, of some of they're just it's just like a constant thing, and they say that it's like passed down from generation to generation. It's almost like just a trade, you know, and it's intense. I had no idea that went on quite like that. I knew that the Irish Mafia and the Winter Hill Gang and the Angelos and all that stuff. I had no idea. Southie, I had no idea. It's got a really rich history, but it's also got a lot of great things. You know, Boston's actually a really beautiful, beautiful city. They finally were forgiven for trading Babe Ruth to the Yankees, which
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's stupid. Remember the whole goat thing, and
you know, I went to so when I was a kid, you know, my father grew up in Southie. He lived on N Street, and my mother grew up in Roxbury. And so whenever my dad would be overseas, he joined the Marine Corps in 1944. But he used to run numbers in South Boston for the folks, right? As a kid, when he was 10 years old, 1939, he would run numbers for the guys. And he was a fast runner, so they'd tip him a nickel or a dime, you know, to take the piece of paper from one end of block to the next end on Broadway, actually. Those of you from South Boston know exactly what I'm talking about over here, you know. And welcome, Lab Rats. It's great to have you guys.
Yeah, and it is. It's a treat. Whenever you're here, everybody, we all appreciate it, and I know that I do, especially. But like you said, maybe one day you'll convert to a good baseball team, and
Yeah, and it was O'Keefe, but his name was Joseph James O'Keefe, and he was a member of the gang that confessed to doing the Brinks robbery. Did you? That one occurred in 1950. And the only reason I remember is he lived in the building where my grandmother lived. My grandmother lived at 1410 Columbia Road, which is across the street from Carson Beach in Southie. And she was on the 6th floor, and he was on like the 9th floor. And my grandmother would tell us kids, she'd look up and say, look, see if Mr. O'Keefe's leaning out his window. He's worth millions. That's the only reason I remember it.
Did she? What about Bolger? I mean, were you around the city during that?
Well, I was there, but my father grew up with him. They were friends as kids growing up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Bolger. Yeah,
about people. Southie was. I mean, Southie was. It's Boston's a big city, but I mean, it was pretty tight community. I mean, everybody kind of knew everybody.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, if you're from there, everybody, like I said, everybody knows everybody.
Yeah. And my family, all of my cousins and everybody is still back there. And I mean, I've got one, two, I got a couple aunts still alive. From my mom's side. But, all my cousins are in Quincy, Dorchester, Southie. I got a cousin, Peggy. If you're listening, Peg, love you. And they're all back there. And they're funny as all get out. I mean, folks from Boston, the old Boston, are hysterical. And, the Whitey Bulgers and those kind of guys back in the day, in the community, you just stay out of their way, and they don't bother anybody. But if you cross them, it's a problem. Evident of the fact they found all the bodies buried at the beach, right?
Yeah, and I'll never forget when Whitey Bulger was found, when they found him. I believe he was like in Venice Beach in California, and then he was like. He had like $800,000 stuffed in his wall because he'd been on the run for so long, 13 years or something. And he only, after he was convicted, I think he only made it, like a couple of days in prison before they got to him.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, what do you, and if those of you from the East Coast are going to know what the answer is, but what do you call us? If you go to Subway and you get a Italian cold cut, what do you call that?
Spicy Italian.
Okay. See, in Boston, it's called a Spucky. Okay?
Spucky.
And those of we watch the chat light up from our friends in the East Coast. And what do you call a soda?
Pop.
A tonic.
Really?
Yeah. I'm giving you a little Boston insight.
I'm hearing it. I just
wake up. You better wake up, man.
Well, you'll never get me to eat a lobster roll.
No. Yeah. Only tourists eat lobster rolls.
Yeah, I got a friend who's like obsessed with that place. He loves going to Boston, and like he'll show me like his videos, and I go, dude, you stick out like a sore thumb there, man. They love him, but he just, you don't, if you're not from there, people could tell right away. It's just a,
yeah.
I thought it was so what was that again? The
tonic.
Soda?
I'll take a tonic.
A tonic.
Yeah.
What, like or something?
No, it wasn't, I mean, Pepsi was a Pepsi, right? But a tonic was like a generic terminology for get me something to, drink.
Interesting.
Like you'd be leaving the house and, you know, my grandmother would say, they used to call me Topher because my name was Christopher, right?
Christopher.
And so they cut it in half, the Topher. So my mom and my grandmother would say, hey, Topher, grab me a tonic and a Spucky when you're down there, would you?
They would call you.
What do you want, Nana? And she'd go, get me an Italian cold cut. Okay, no problem.
Topher.
Topher, Topher. I know, right?
I bet you loved that name, didn't you?
Well, yeah. And then when we moved from Boston, when my dad came back from Vietnam, he got transferred to Hawaii. So that's where I went from Boston to Hawaii and ended up out there for a long time.
Interesting.
Yeah, military, right? Military brat. Right.
Yeah, you went everywhere. I know that your parents were, they were just served the country, and they're both. You said both buried at Arlington.
Both of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've seen my dad's funeral, right?
I've seen your dad's funeral. Yeah. It was.
Yeah, they were the real deal.
Absolutely. Well, today, Chris, we're witnessing a trial now that these kind of trials are always fascinating because Lori Daybell has decided to represent herself, make a fool out of herself. I watched a little bit of the opening statements and we'll listen to it and react to it. But what are your just initial thoughts with Miss Daybell and her wanting to represent herself? I mean, she's already been found guilty in another trial, and now I believe this is for her ex-husband, who was killed as well. And Chad and Lori have left a wake of destruction in their past, and they've blamed it on religion. They've blamed it on just tragic set of events. They've blamed it on everything except themselves. And it's pretty unbelievable. And to me, I mean, it's almost a mockery of the of the judicial system. However, everybody's allowed to represent themselves if they so choose. But it just makes for almost a laughable type trial. What say you about that, Chris?
Well, I mean, there's an old saying, trials are won by the opening and closing, right? Everything in between is just marshmallow. But if you give a strong opening statement, then you can pretty well figure out that the jury's going to pay attention. And for Lori, I think it's just add marbles and stir.
Right.
I mean, she keeps moving her head. She started crying. I mean, it's like and action. So it's so that's what I think right now. She's already underwater and she doesn't realize her snorkel's clogged up.
Yeah. And did you, it was Karen Thompson, and thank you for the $10 super chat, Karen. It was abysmal. It was almost laughable. And if there weren't people that, are dead in the wake of what she and Chad are accused of and have been found guilty of, I find it just repugnant. I mean, I don't understand is she in the right mind to even be able to do something like this? I wonder that too. And not that to me, not that matters, if she is in her right state of mind. I mean, she chose to do this, but I'm surprised that she's allowed to.
Well, yeah, great point. I mean, the evidence will show, right? I'm waiting for her hair to go straight up in the air after one of the bailiffs hits the 50,000 volt, belt that she's wearing. I mean, this is a gal that stands there and, pitches off to everybody that she's the victim, that,
Mhm.
I missed Tyler, and she started crying a little bit during the opening. And I'm like, let me get this right. Aren't you the gal that was, you know, taking your kids to Yellowstone Park, and then eventually your daughter is dismembered and stuck
That
in fire
and
pit?
burned.
Yeah. you know and she has the audacity to stand before the world. Look at her hair. She curled her hair today.
I know. I noticed that during when she did that Keith Morrison interview, which, by the way, was absolutely off the rails.
I haven't even watched it.
You didn't watch it? I
I
mean,
haven't. Yeah.
she was like flirting with him.
Well, that's her game. That's her MO, right? Like, I did that the other night, throwing my hair back, and this and that.
The way she was, yeah, the way she was talking to him, it was like she was pretending that they were like good friends, old friends, and she'd go, "Oh, Keith," and she'd do this, that, and he would, sit there, and she's like, "You don't know the facts, Keith," and he would challenge her on that, and then she, "Well, Keith," and it was sickening, really, to sit and watch. But he would ask her, like, "Were you there when the children, died?" And she would dodge the question and say, and then she'd go, "No, I wasn't there." It was really odd. And yeah, she had her hair all done. And and Kelsey says here, based on past behavior and claims, calling herself a goddess, claiming divine missions, she may genuinely believe she's the best person to defend herself. I think she does think that. I think that she thinks that. I think she has delusions of grandeur. I really, really do. But I just don't. I have no sympathy, no remorse. I think that for her, I think that. Oh, excuse me. I have no sympathy, and she has no remorse for anything. It feels like that she's done. I mean, they made a mess of of people's lives. I mean, and those poor children. And Chad, he's just as disgusting. But these were her children. And now she's on trial for the murder of her husband. And I'm gonna play a little bit of this here because and we'll react to it. And let me know if you want me to stop.
Okay.
And we'll listen to a bit of this.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I have been charged with a crime, a serious crime. And the only question here is,
Hold on.
did I commit?
I don't know why it's so low, but
Well, it was their volume too. The volume was just terrible today.
does it get any better?
It all depends. I mean, it does. It comes in and out, but for the most time, and the fact that she, did up her hair here, she threw a little jacket over her jail suit.
That's nice. Yeah, it looks good.
Hopefully, they have the electric belt on her. I want to see. I want to see that puppy go off. I really do. There's a part of me just for Tylee.
Let me see. So can anybody hear it? Can anybody hear can they hear her talk?
They may have to turn it up.
Let me see here.
Conspiracy is an agreement between two or more people to commit a crime.
She even got lipstick on.
There has to be an agreement. There has to be a plan. The evidence in this case will show that Charles Vallow and I got married in February 2006. It will show that it was my fourth marriage and Charles' third marriage. At that time, we each had 2 children. I had Colby, who was 9, and Tylee, who was 3.
They got married in
Cole, who was
Vegas.
also 9, and Zach, who was
Of
7.
course.
Lost
The evidence
wages.
will show that our family moved from Austin, Texas to Chandler, Arizona in 2009. The evidence will show that Charles and I adopted our great nephew, JJ, who was born in 2012. It will also show that Charles and I were married for over 13 years and were raising 5 children. The evidence will show that I was a licensed cosmetologist and worked as a hairstylist for 20.
Why does the evidence need to show that she was a licensed cosmetologist?
Unknown to this unit. The evidence hasn't shown me that yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand.
What's the relevance to that?
I don't know. I don't know if there is.
20
Okay.
years while we lived in Austin, Texas. The evidence will show that Charles was a licensed life insurance salesman and worked as an independent contractor, selling life insurance policies and annuities, and owned his own business.
Isn't that
The evidence
convenient?
will show that Charles
It's
and I
very
purchased
convenient.
life insurance policies early in our marriage, and Charles
Isn't
had
that
them issued
convenient?
to the maximum amount possible.
I think
Of course,
each
$1 million.
month. The evidence will
The
show that
evidence is
Charles was
also going to show
17 years
she's not
older than
listed.
me, and that because of
I
Charles'
remember that.
age and an
That was
issue
great.
that he had with high blood pressure, the maximum amount of life insurance that could be approved for Charles was $1 million. The maximum amount of life
You wanted
insurance
more.
that I could be approved for because of my age and my health was $2 million.
She
The
got to
evidence will
reverse.
show that throughout our 13-year marriage, that we always had life insurance policies. When a 10-year policy lapsed, Charles would shop for another company who would approve us for the maximum amount of life insurance. The evidence will show that this was Charles' job. This is what he did. I helped him in this business, and this is what he did. The evidence will show that in 2016, Charles repurchased a new $2 million life insurance policy on me, and he was the sole beneficiary. The evidence will show that Charles and I had a happy marriage for 13 years.
Yeah, okay.
That he was, in fact, a baseball player, and that he played high school, college ball, and AAA ball, and that he
Yeah.
was, in fact, a left-handed pitcher, a southpaw, they call him. But he
Yeah,
was a
Alex's head would
right-handed
be gone.
batter, as could
Right.
be attested to by anybody who knew Charles well and his high school baseball coach, Greg Davis. The evidence will show that
I'm missing a point. I'm missing something here. Why she's saying that something about Chad's baseball coach? She wants him to testify that he played baseball.
Yeah, and you realize he's at home right now, spitting the root beer out through his nose.
Yeah, he's going, why are you bringing me up in this?
He's at home, take a sip of root beer and did she just say my name?
Yeah, like don't bring me into this.
What's he doing? What evidence is going to show that?
Yeah. The evidence is going to show that you don't need to bring me up in your opening statement.
The guy sitting on his couch going, honey, come, let's watch your opening statement.
You coach Chad Daybell? Yeah.
That Tylee was, and in 2014, our family moved from Chandler, Arizona to Kauai, Hawaii. We lived there for 3.5 years and returned to Chandler in 2017. The evidence will show that Tylee was
It almost makes you appreciate Johnny Cochran.
Like, yeah, the evidence is showing now that she had a pretty good life.
It sounds like she kind of, she sort of skimmed through the evidence here.
I mean, it's her fourth husband. I mean, everybody else seems like bodies just stack up everywhere Lori Vallow goes.
I mean, and these delusions are like, I mean, I just don't quite get. I don't quite get how, she's. I mean, whatever happened to just admitting what you did?
Well, the evidence won't show that.
Oh, the evidence shows it. All right.
When Charles and I got married, and that when she became a teenager, the relationship between Tylee and her stepfather, Charles, became so difficult that Tylee and
blame
Charles
the
had
victim.
A family therapist to stop.
Victim blaming.
The evidence will show that.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty common.
Together, Charles.
Well,
and
that's
Tylee
that's pretty brazen, seeing that her child was dismembered and stuffed into a fire pit. That takes a lot of guts. And I think the evidence is showing that she has no emotional valve at all, and all the crocodile tears are going to flow here, anticipating all the men in the jury here are going to have empathy, but the evidence is going to show it's tough to get guys to empathize with the fourth wife.
Yeah. I agree with that. And she's she's just she's something else.
Pissed after we moved back to
This is her shining moment, I think. This is what she like. This is what she loves attention. She does. I mean, there's no question about that. And I truly think that she probably thinks she's the smartest person in that room, which isn't. I mean, it's not even. It's not even close. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, the scary part here, right? When we watch this, everybody around her is dead except for Chad. And Brandon would have been, but they missed. Okay. I mean, think about this. This gal is talking about her dead child within a couple of years as if she's just, she was having an argument with Charles, and that's the reason. And meanwhile, she's not showing any empathy from a perspective of a parent who's lost a child, that you could even bring your child's name up who'd been murdered. I mean, it just goes to show you how twisted she is. But I think if we shook her head right now, we'd hear all the marbles. Okay. But
yeah.
But she's not, she's crazy, but she's not nuts. And the law, there's a definitive law there that says, well, she's not insane. And they sent her to the cuckoo bin for a little while anyway, right? And then she's back.
Yeah, she's almost even too crazy for that. And Grammy B says, I love you, Josh, and thank you so much for being you. I appreciate that, Grammy B.
the mainland in 2017. The evidence will show that in April of 2018, Tylee's biological father passed away from a heart attack. And at that time, Charles called Social Security and made an appointment at the Social Security office.
Object to hearsay.
She's not ready for this, Chris.
She's running the money, man. She's running up the money.
Yeah,
and that's the reason.
And then she gets hit with this objection. She doesn't. She's so out of her league. And by the way, if you're not a professional lawyer who has practiced, you're out of your league. I mean, it's just she doesn't know what she's doing. I think the judge even got mad at her for lack of preparation leading up to this trial. It's if I remember reading.
Yeah.
Is that a surprise? No.
It will show that we did get Social Security for Tylee for her deceased father until she was 18 years old, and she was 15 years old at the time.
I spent it all.
The evidence will show that Charles and Tylee's fighting increased greatly in January of 2019 when Charles and I temporarily separated. The evidence will show that several people witnessed these terrible arguments between Tylee and Charles that increased to physical in 2000.
You want me to stop?
I'm getting clutched. Starting to cry.
You need to crack windows. Does it get foggy in here?
I just need a minute.
Yeah, she's an actress for sure.
And action.
2019. Charles and Tylee had major increasing arguments, two in February of 2019, one of March in 2019, which was captured on video, one in May of 2019, one in June of 2019.
She knows all the dates of the fights.
In July 2019.
Wow.
The evidence will show that in March of 2019, Charles pulled JJ out of his special school and moved him to Houston, Texas, while we were temporarily separated. Tylee and I then joined Charles and JJ in Texas in April 2019 to reconcile. The evidence will show that JJ was diagnosed with severe autism when he was 3 years old while we lived in Hawaii. The evidence will show that for 2 years, JJ was attending a school in Gilbert, Arizona, a special school for children with autism. It's called Lauren's Life Academy.
If you want to see that school, you can
Evidence
watch
will
my
show
show
that
from
in
last
June
night.
of 2019.
Yeah, I saw that. Check that out because it is. You guys did a really good rundown of that.
In JJ's best interest, Tylee, JJ, and I moved back to Chandler, Arizona to re-enroll JJ back in Lauren's Life Academy since he had a difficult time with the Houston, Texas schools with no services for his autism. The evidence will show that Charles and I agreed it was in JJ's best interest to be in school where more services were available to him. So Charles and I rented a house here in Chandler. On the day in question, July 11th, 2019, Charles and I were renting two houses, one in Houston, Texas, where he mainly resided, and one in Chandler, Arizona, where I resided with our two minor children, Tylee and JJ. By this time, our three older boys, Colby, Cole, and Zach, were adults and not living at home any longer.
This is a great question, and I'll ask you, Chris. I think so, but you know, I don't think that there's much that this lady's not capable of. Let me read this really fast too. Hey, Josh, so happy to be able to catch you live tonight. I'm always asleep for your other lives, but replay them in the mornings. I appreciate that, and bliss blessings. Go Astros. Giants swept the Astros, but go Astros. After that, I just wanted to say that the Giants did sweep the Astros, but I wish you guys second place, and then Boston third, and
go bless, go,
and then the Padres 32nd.
Hang on, I got to change hats. The pods are coming.
But do you think that she was there when the children were killed?
Oh, most definitely. She wouldn't miss that event, just like she didn't miss this one.
Yeah, I think that she was all in on this. I mean, this was her and Chad's grand plan. I mean, this.
But look, listen to how she's talking here. She's trying to build empathy for the children. Okay, and she is measuring that empathy to the jury right now. She's putting it out there, and what she's going to do is she's going to use that to her advantage. That's triangulation. Mm-hmm. That is sociopathic, behavior. You tell one person who tells the next person who comes back to you what the other person actually said.
Right.
And it's discombobulated. Well, here she's presenting, ideas about her kids, the kids that are adults and out of the house. But then she presents the other two, Tylee and JJ, as, well, the reason we moved is because of JJ. Forgetting to tell the jury that, oh, and by the way, did I tell you my new husband, number 5, paging number 5.
Beep, beep.
Exactly. Did I tell you my new husband, okay, cut my daughter up and put her in a fire pit. And then we wrapped my autistic son that I was so concerned about moving back from Austin, Texas to Chandler so he could go to the special school. And forget the letter. Remember, she sent a letter to the school, explaining the reason why JJ was no longer there.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember, and the whole thing, her having to produce, proof of life, and they're out of town on vacation, and they're sitting by the pool having a good time. They knew what happened to those kids because they're the ones that did it, and they did it with a clear conscience. I don't know how you do that. I mean, these are her children.
Well, just think of Chad, how much of a geisha he was for her. She led him around like a bull with a horn in its nose, or a ring in its nose. Okay, look at the jury that she picked. Most of them are men. She thinks she can manipulate men extensively. Look at, she's got 5 husbands. She successfully has done it for 4. Why not Chad? Chad's a cupcake. He can do all the dirty work. She got her brother to pull the trigger. She didn't pull the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's her MO. Her MO is not only to control her environment, but it's to control the people around her and look at the majority of the people around her. They're men. Shit, this is Charles Manson, only it's, got marbles and blonde hair.
Yeah, and especially when she was, when she was, you see pictures of her from, her early 20s and 30s, and she was very attractive, very pretty, and then what she's done now, and you look at her as just this total monster. There's zero attraction. You look at her and you go, oh my God, like I can't even, stomach listening to her sometimes. But she has made a life of controlling men by her looks, and by the by the the whole, men wanted to sleep with her, and she used that to her advantage, but it wasn't just that. It was so much further than
Yeah,
that.
I mean, if you think about it, right? If you want to see beauty, just look at my Karen. She's beautiful from the inside out. If you want to see, the goalie for the United States dart team, take a look at Lori. Okay, I mean, when you look at her, watch when she turns towards the camera in a little bit. She's actually, you can just see this. I don't know what it is. I mean, I've seen the look 1,000 times because it comes from the inside out. And it's almost as if, Ned that she keeps talking about is in there, right? I think she is Ned. She's the zombie. She's been the zombie from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying, that it's this like autopilot, like, got, she thinks that she's going to be exonerated for all of this. All of it. Not just one, murder here or one piece of this here. She thinks that she's going to be exonerated because, she that God has already shown her that was going to happen. And I mean, do you think she really believes this stuff?
She does. Yeah, and she also believes in the Easter Bunny in a couple of weeks. I mean, she's delusional.
Will show that during the months of June and July, that my husband Charles Vallow began to send me threatening text messages.
Oh, it's his fault.
Victim blaming again, right?
And meanwhile, he's standing in front of the Chandler Police Department early on saying, hey, my wife thinks she's a god. And, oh, by the way, did I tell you, she's threatening me? And I'm worried about the kids. I'm worried about the boys. I'm worried about my daughter, JJ and Tylee. And, this is where we are today. He was right.
He absolutely was. I remember seeing that, him going to report her, and he was very concerned about her behavior. He was very concerned about the kids. And wasn't he also, as soon as he died or was killed, wasn't she was on the phone with the life insurance company?
Yeah, within 3 days, she called to collect $1 million. And that's when she got the big surprise that it went to somebody else.
Good for him, by the way. Jeez.
Yeah, and then she texted Chad. He changed it.
I remember that. That was very upsetting to her.
Oops.
By my sister Summer, and that worried her. The evidence will show that Charles insisted on flying into Phoenix.
You know what's going to be really interesting, Josh?
As we've heard,
that
is if her good brother takes the stand to testify against her and she cross-examines him. That's going to be worth, popcorn with chocolate sauce on it, because that's going to be a good day. I can't wait to see those fireworks.
Well, she's going to, I mean, when she starts cross-examining like the professionals, and she did a little bit of that today. I mean, she's just going to get her butt handed to her every step of the way. She's not, I'm not insulting. Well, maybe I am insulting. She's not very smart. She's not bright. She's so far in over her head. This is going to go down. She's going to be found guilty. She's already serving life, and now she's going to end up serving another life sentence. I mean, she's never going to see the light of day. They're going to dig a hole.
Yeah, I mean, right? I mean, let's just picture what, this thing playing out, where if she gets her brother up on the stand,
or her son,
Kobe, right? You get him up there, and you start crossing him, because the state's going to get what they want, and then she's going to get a shot at him, and we're going to hear stuff like, probably, Mom, no, that's not what happened. But she doesn't realize, and she doesn't care about the type of destructive emotional damage that she will continue to cause those around her. Literally. And she doesn't feel it. She doesn't see it. She understands it, but she doesn't care. They're past feeling. They're not able to feel.
Yeah. Well, so it sounds like Adam is on listed on the witness stand on, but she'd be one of those people that would I could just see this happening too. Like, no further questions, or she won't cross-examine him, or, I mean, it's going to be so damning. And he's not going to have great things to say about her. I mean, he's for the prosecution. It's just going to be I hope that she does, because I want her to get all of her medicine, and I want her to be embarrassed and humiliated out of court, because what she's done is beyond despicable. I mean, she's already been convicted once. And there's no doubt in my mind that this was her idea, and that she was there, either participated in the murder of her own children, or set it up and was there when it happened. I don't know. I know that she ultimately did not protect her children. She believed some crazy fantasy, refused to get help when many people tried to help her, because there's help out there for people that are struggling. I'm not, this is nothing against mental illness. This is so far beyond that. This is evil. There's a lot of people that have a mental illnesses in this world, that nurture and love their children and take care of their children and protect their children and seek help for the things that are going on. Lori did none of those things. Lori just thought that, hey, this is just a normal way for me to live my life, because God said so. And there were so many people that told her that she needed help, that she should seek it, and she didn't. She couldn't be bothered at all.
Heard from the state. The evidence will show that I advised Charles that he could not stay with us at the Chandler house because he could not get along with Tylee, and I did not want them to get into another fight like they had 3 weeks prior. The evidence will show that it was ultimately decided between Charles and I on text messages that he would stay in a hotel, because he traveled for business all the time and stayed in hotels all the time, and that I would book it for him, since I worked for him and booked all of his travel. The evidence will show that Charles did in fact fly into Phoenix on Wednesday, July 10th, and stayed in the hotel that I booked for him. The evidence will show that Charles paid to fly my brother Adam Cox into Phoenix from Kansas on the same day, Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. The evidence will show that Charles planned to come to our Chandler home and pick up JJ and drive him to school on Thursday morning, July 11th, 2019. The evidence will also show you that Lauren's Life Academy opens its gates at 8:25 a.m. in the morning.
Can you stop?
And the evidence will show.
The evidence didn't show that when I drove through it.
Yeah, the evidence hasn't shown anything. Her evidence doesn't exist. The evidence she has is in her head, but go ahead.
The evidence will show that the gate, I don't know which one she's talking about, but we took a tour of it, where you just drive around, you come back, and you drop your kids off, and they're escorted in.
And Lisa says, does she have any legal background? Yes, her legal background is she's been on trial and convicted for murder.
Good point.
But that's about it, as far as I know. I mean, she's seen. You would think that she would pick up a couple legal books, but she's really like free. She's She's freestyling this one, I think. Castle, that's an understatement, but yeah, I agree with you.
That Charles showed up at our Chandler residence around 7:30 in the rental car I booked.
Keith Morrison, right? I like Keith Morrison a lot. I think he's a great reporter. I think, he does fantastic work. He's interviewed, just like you, Chris, he's interviewed thousands of people. He said that after interviewing her, it was the most exhausting interview he's ever done in his life. He said that she was so difficult to deal with. And that's coming from a top-notch interviewer. I mean, he said that it made him want to fly off a cliff. That's how bad it was.
The only way to interview this type of personality is you feed them a thought process and then essentially talk to them in the third person. Like, hypothetically, Lori, and give me an example, Lori, let me give you a hypothetical. What's that? Okay,
Right.
Chris. Okay. Well, let's say, somebody did shoot Charles. Okay. Hypothetically, how do you think that would have gone down?
And then she'd run with the narrative.
She's going to fill the gaps, man.
She loves to.
Oh, absolutely.
And the thing is, and then when she gets like pinned into a corner, she says, "You weren't there. You don't know." That's not evidence. That's nothing. That's just her. It's a filibuster. And she did that a lot, with in her interview. And look, this is honestly, what's gonna end up happening here, and it's already happened starting today, is that it's the evidence is gonna show how crazy she is.
Booked for him on the morning of Thursday, July 11th, 2019. The evidence will show that Charles began texting with my brother, Adam Cox, before he entered our residence. And that Charles and Adam were discussing in their text communications that my other brother, Alex Cox, was at the residence.
What's up, Mr. E?
The evidence will show that on the morning of July 11th, that Tylee was asleep in her room and my brother Alex was asleep in the guest room. The evidence will show that when Charles entered the house, only JJ and I were awake and present. The evidence will show that after we put JJ in the rental car, that Charles came back into the residence to receive his phone, leaving JJ in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running. He was 7 years old. The evidence will show that Charles began to scream at me when I refused to hand him his phone. The evidence will show that Charles screaming woke up Tylee and Alex.
All of this is hearsay. None of it's evidence. I mean,
it's filler.
But what I'm saying is she's saying this as if she can prove every single thing that she's saying by saying the evidence will show, but it doesn't. There's no evidence of this is all from her.
It's too much information. She's trying to paint this picture that she had his phone and that she wasn't giving it back. And so what does she do? She paints this picture that he escalates. He's the one who raises the temperature within the room, waking up, Alex and, Tylee, who are sleeping in the back. And Alex just happened to have his 45 with him.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the evidence shown, and it's going to show, that he's standing in the living room and Alex caps him right in the 10 ring and center punches him. And then as he falls, he's down on the ground. He gives him another coup de grace. And that's why the trajectory goes from the bottom up through his shoulder.
Yeah. He was on the ground.
Yeah. He shoots him. And I said that 2.5 years ago. And it was so obvious that the crime scene was staged. The baseball bat was in a position that it shouldn't have been in. The body was in a position that it shouldn't have been in, and the guy's baseball cap was halfway across the room.
If anybody hit in the head with a baseball bat,
there was a baseball bat there.
No, I know there was.
Oh,
but do you think he really got hit in the head with it?
No,
that's what I'm saying. It's like I've seen a little leaguer let a bat slip out of his hand and the knob end hit a coach in the head and it dropped him to his knees. This is a tough guy.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody's swinging a metal baseball bat at your head and even clips you, it's a big, I mean, the evidence will show that it's going to mess you up.
Well, first of all, she introduces the baseball bat through who? Tylee.
Yeah.
Okay. Why are you doing that? That Tylee's coming out to defend her against her stepfather? What? Because his phone is in the house, that he decides to pull a baseball bat and go at it with mom, or excuse me, grab the baseball bat from her and go at it with the family, and he's wrestling the baseball bat from the daughter. I mean, how morbid can you get that you're throwing your, dismembered daughter into this fight, into this conversation? It goes to show you what evil looks like when it's staring you in the face. This is why I always talk about society, how it's so dangerous as a society to hate each other over words. It's stupid. I mean, because this is how people hurt each other.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I've seen too much of it to be thinking, it's like, really? Okay, so you got a different opinion than me. Okay, great. Good for you. Good for me. Let's high five each other. You want to go get an ice cream. Okay. But in these kind of situations, once you become that polarized, here now, her children are dead. Let's keep that in everybody's mind tonight. This opening statement today was when her understanding the fact that she's been convicted of killing those 2 children with Chad. Okay. Now, let's figure that piece of the puzzle out, because here she's using them now as pieces of a puzzle for her own defense. That's disgusting. That is, very, very problematic in my opinion.
Yeah, it's evil personified for sure. I mean, there's no question that she will say and do anything to try to make herself be the victim, and that, her ex-husband was sending her threatening text messages. She didn't want to be around him, blah, blah, blah. He was the one with the problem, not her. And, I mean, look where she's at now. And by the way, as somebody in the chat pointed out, there's nobody alive to substantiate these things. Besides,
They're all dead.
They're all dead. Every single one of them.
The evidence will show that Tylee came out of her room with a bat to protect me, her mother, from her stepfather, Charles Vallow. The evidence will show that Tylee and Charles fought over the bat, and that after a struggle over the bat, Tylee fell onto the ground, and Charles lifted up the bat to hit Tylee with the bat.
Sure.
The evidence will show that Alex then intervened to protect Tylee from being hit with the bat.
Sure.
He did not have a gun. He was not wearing a shirt. He was pulling up his jeans because he just woke up and came into the room where he heard the screaming.
In his jeans.
The evidence will show that Alex and Charles got into a physical struggle for the bat and fell onto the ground.
Sure.
The evidence will show that Tylee, who was on the ground, was lifted up by me and sent outside to get away from the struggle and to protect JJ, who was still in the running car, in the rental car, in the driveway.
Yeah.
I mean, the evidence will show that I have 4 loaves of soggy bread. They're all for sale. Okay. And just because they look soggy doesn't mean they are soggy. I mean, look at this part. Tylee's on the ground, about ready to be smashed with this baseball bat from a AAA ball player, his stepdaughter, that they've been having some arguments, and mom's been protecting her, right? She's the protector, right? This is her role. I'm the protector, by golly. And now she's going to tear up here in a minute. The evidence will show that she's going to tear up. because she's the protector. And Alex, you know, pulling up his jeans. Can you picture this? He comes out of the bedroom to protect Tylee. Okay. And somehow, though, Lori interjects herself, you know, with the red cape and the S, you know, the Wonder Woman on the, you know, the front, and she jumps in and somehow gets Tylee off of the floor. Well, then, okay, great. What's Charles doing at that point? Why doesn't he hit her? If you know she's intervening, okay, what's going on there? Because at some point, Alex has to go back and get the gun. Okay,
No question about it. I mean, it makes none of it makes any sense. And then it goes back to the first trial with her children. I mean, she's blaming her daughter. She blamed her daughter for the death of her little brother, and that, you know, she ultimately took her own life. Did she dismember herself too and set herself on fire?
you know,
I mean, it is beyond comprehension. It's everybody else's fault. Yeah, and she said, well, this was a tragedy, not a crime. This is a family tragedy. She's like, yeah, we've had a lot of family tragedies.
and look at the verbiage here. She adds also, look at the picture she's trying to paint. Okay, though, you know, psychopaths don't have the capacity to paint real well. Okay, so that's why it's really important to listen to the minutia and the wording here. So she's gone from I'm protecting Tylee to, and JJ's in the car with the car running. Both of those, she's projecting that she is protecting. Okay? And it's the opposite of what's going on here. It's the absolute opposite. She has qualified this sales job as it started over a telephone, a cell phone. And it escalated from the cell phone into murder and self-defense, i.e. the gunshot. Okay. But you know what? Might as well go to Burger King and get some chicken fries. You know, for you this morning, JJ, and buy some flip-flops just in case we have a pool party.
Mm. I mean, she's just chicken fries.
The evidence will show that after the struggle on the ground between Charles and Alex, that Charles prevailed with the bat and began to come towards me with the bat as I ran away from him into the kitchen.
Okay.
As I ran away from the kids.
The evidence will show that at some point while I was running away from Charles.
This is like Freddy Krueger blaming other people for.
The evidence will show at some point, i.e., I haven't figured that out yet.
That's what I'm saying. Everything that she's saying, this isn't evidence. This is her story. And somebody mentioned it in the chat earlier. This is more of a setting a narrative than an opening statement. This is not really an opening statement. I mean, if all this stuff, if she's saying that all this stuff, that the evidence will show all this stuff is going to come true, then she'd be found innocent. She's not going to be found innocent because the evidence isn't going to show that, because there is the only evidence is that she set this up and that she manipulated people to carry out her evil desires. And the best, what do they say? Dead men tell no tales. Nobody is going to testify against her in these situations. I mean, the brother's dead, the husband's dead, Chad's on death row, waiting. He's going on. Doesn't he have his own trial coming up too? Again, another one.
You know, the evidence will show that they're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
I don't know how these people meet each other.
Who was chasing me with the bat. that Alex apparently retrieved his gun.
Alex apparently retrieved his gun.
Yeah, out of his hand.
Well, okay, so let's do the math here. Okay. There's a long hallway near the kitchen. There's a struggle going on. And Charles somehow has this bat. So his attention goes away from Tylee towards, this thing. And she's trying to get away. And apparently, Alex went to the room and got his gun while he was pulling his pants up. And he comes out, and apparently Charles didn't get Lori, with the bat. Maybe she was, using her superpowers and, dodging her Ned, not,
right.
No,
It
absolutely makes sense.
Yeah, and that's exactly what she's doing. Not that queen bee. She's using her daughter that they absolutely just disrespected her body and just is just she shouldn't even be able to mention her name, and she does. Small way to show my appreciation. Watch you two together feels like home and school all rolled into one. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I agree. And like I said, we do got to do more of these together.
I know.
The evidence will show that I ran outside to the children and that Alex shot Charles in self-defense. The evidence will show that Tylee and I had both run outside without shoes.
Without shoes, Chris. Did you hear that? We ran outside without shoes.
We need to get flip-flops.
The evidence
just leave your daughter out of this.
Will show that JJ was still in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running and struggling to get out of the car. Tylee was trying to keep him in. The evidence will show that Tylee and I got into the rental car with JJ and drove away.
Why?
Is she going to take the stand?
Why did they drive away?
Is she going to take? Your guess is as good as mine.
That's a great question.
Is she going to take the stand and she's going to question herself on the stand?
Oh, I'm sure she will. She can't resist.
Will the evidence show that I'm going to take the stand and question myself? Yes, I think the evidence will show that.
Yeah. Cue the tears.
The evidence will show you that I drove the children away from the residence towards JJ's school.
Okay, tissue.
Oh.
Can I grab a tissue?
Okay, can I grab a tissue, Your Honor, before you electrocute me?
Is
moving towards the prosecution table?
Is she shackled?
Yeah, she got her electric belt on. They only put that on for special people.
I was gonna say that's not a good look for somebody that's
her jail shirt with her jacket over it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. I'm surprised, like, because a lot of times if you have a good lawyer, they'll make a request for you to be able to wear something, decent. But you'd have to have a lawyer usually to
a la Koberger.
Yeah. The state might have bought her a nice pantsuit, Hillary Clinton style.
Yeah. Well, they bought her a curling iron.
Evidence will show.
Somebody said that they did it. She did it with pieces of toilet paper, but I don't know.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me.
I drove the children through the Burger King drive-thru that Charles had promised JJ.
Oh, so let me get this right. Let's stop
continue
for a
to drive
second. This is, you got to love America. Only in America do we get an opportunity to see this. Only in America. So let me get this right, Lori. You run out of the house without flip-flops because somebody was just trying to come after your daughter and you with a baseball bat, your ex-husband, who you hate. That's why you're divorcing him. And you know what? While we're here, JJ, let's get your chicken fries.
We made you a promise.
Dad promised you after he killed me, he would take you over and get chicken fries. Am I missing something?
No, she is though.
Other than the Giants not winning the World Series.
Towards JJ's school. And that the gate was not yet open at JJ's school. So we drove a block west of the school to a Walgreens, where I ran in to purchase flip-flops for Tylee and myself so that we could walk JJ into school on the hot pavement.
And by the way, it's 8:30 in the morning. The pavement's not hot.
Not yet, it's not.
The evidence will show that Tylee and I returned directly to our residence, where we met with police in our driveway. The evidence will show that we were spoken to by the Chandler police officers.
Street clothes were approved with shock belt underneath. Shock belt.
Cool.
Why do you, in case she gets out of line? I mean, is that what this is?
Oh, yeah, it's cool because the bailiff has like a little push button. Yeah. All he has to do is go like that, and she lights up like a Christmas tree. I've got to see that one time during the trial.
That would be awesome. It's an honor.
You know, I'll make stickers. I will get stickers.
I would love to do that.
And speaking of stickers, can I pitch the new PIR sticker?
By all means.
Teasing.
No, I want to show them.
No, I'm good. I'm good. We just got new stickers.
Well, you're going to show everybody before we're done.
All right, go.
The evidence will show that Tylee and I were told by the Chandler police detectives that Charles had passed away.
Huh? What?
He passed away from
and
a
she
bullet.
Was shocked.
You know, I'm shocked too. I didn't think that bullets could do damage like that.
The evidence will show that we were put into a police van and driven to the Chandler Police Department.
The evidence would show you didn't ask how.
The evidence will show that Alex was taken by police in a police car to the Chandler Police Department, and that we were all three separated into interrogation rooms and we were each interviewed.
Yeah.
The evidence will show that next, Tylee and I were brought back together into a room at the Chandler Police Department and were introduced to a victim's advocate who was very kind to us.
Of course.
The evidence will show that after speaking to the victim's advocate, that Tylee, Alex, and myself were put back into the police van and driven back to our residence.
I mean, that there may be evidence to show that. I mean, but other than that, I mean, I don't know what that has to do with anything.
Yeah. Hang on for a minute.
Yes, Mr. E, does she really believe that she will win this? Yes, she really believes that she's going to win this. And she's in the chance event that there's a technicality, she won't know what to do with it. I mean, they're gonna roll her up and mop the floor with her.
We were directed by the Chandler detectives to take the rental car and return later to the residence after we picked up JJ from school. The evidence will show that we did as instructed by the Chandler detectives. The evidence will show that we drove to Alex's residence where we attended to the wound on the back of his head.
Mm.
The evidence will show that Alex was then contacted by the Chandler detectives to return to the residence so that Alex could walk them through the events that occurred with the detectives.
Didn't she just say she was at the residence?
From what I understand, yeah.
Go back again.
Evidence will show detectives.
There you go.
We were directed by the Chandler detectives to take the rental car and return later to the residence after we picked up JJ from school.
Okay.
The evidence will show that we did as instructed by the Chandler detectives.
They're at the residence.
Evidence will show that we drove to Alex's residence where we attended to the wound on the back of his head.
So they went to Alex's house.
The evidence will show that Alex was then contacted by the Chandler detectives to return to the residence so that Alex could walk them through the events that occurred.
Go back to the
with
house.
Detectives at the residence.
So they go back to the house. Then they go to Alex's house, clean the wound up, and then they come back to the house where they're going to do a reenactment.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what I'm picking up from what she's laying down.
Is that what the evidence is showing?
That's what the evidence is showing me. Oh my God, Lori, everybody's wrong about you. You're such a great, caring person.
I love that name, maple syrup.
I do too. You can just see Maui.
Maui.
Aloha. Right back to
Tilly and I did return to the residence as instructed, and the evidence will show that Alex entered into the residence with Detective Moffat, but that Tylee and I were met by Detective Inkland in the front yard. The evidence will show that at the time, Detective Inkland asked Tylee and myself if we had Charles' cell phone. Tylee retrieved Charles' cell phone from the rental car and gave it to Detective Inkland at 3:11 p.m. on July 11th, 2019. And at that time, Charles' phone was placed in the custody of Chandler Police detectives. The evidence will show that Detective Inkland asked us if we knew the passcode on Charles' phone, which Tylee proceeded to give to Detective Inkland. The evidence will show that Tylee and I left the residence to pick up JJ from school. While
Wait a
Alex
minute.
remained at the residence
Didn't
with
she
the
pick up
detectives,
JJ earlier and take him
the
back?
evidence will show that
Yeah,
by the
I thought
time
they already had
Tylee,
went
JJ,
to,
and I returned to the residence,
She pick him up a second time then? Am I
sounds
missing this?
like what the evidence is showing. I mean, I don't know, man. It's hard. In all honesty, it's really hard to follow her timeline or whatever it is. Thank God that, I mean, it would be nice, but yeah, this isn't apparently you can just say whatever you want during opening statements.
that all
Can you
police
imagine what Tylee's going through? Having to realize that her mom and her uncle just whacked her stepfather. And
No.
they're in the car with her that whole time. Can you imagine the fear in this child? No wonder she said, "Mom, I'm not a zombie."
Yeah, because I mean, that's what she's telling them, that they're, it kind of reminds me of the that YouTuber lady in, I think she was in Arizona, and she had locked her little daughter in the closet, and she was saying, and then the son escaped to a nearby house. I don't know if you're familiar with this one, but she was saying that God was telling her to punish her children because that the devil was in them or something wild. Yeah, Ruby. Yeah, exactly. And you know, it was getting to this point, and I loved it. It was funny too when the cops showed up at her house and they're like, "Do you have to have or you have to have a warrant?" And they're like, "No." They didn't need a warrant because, they had her son who was harmed. She's like, "You have to have a warrant to come to my house." I'm like, "No, we're done. Get out of the way." Yeah, Ruby Frank. And it was just like that's the level of depravity that we're dealing with.
Only her a little more
CS
sophisticated. At least the other lady, it sounds like at least the other lady probably diagnosed of, schizophrenia or something to that effect,
Yeah, it's something. I don't know. I just don't know where people get off thinking that um, a merciful God would tell you to do that to your children.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
And of course not. Of course not. And even the people that don't believe in God would tell you that uh, if there was a God, he wouldn't tell you to do that. It's just crazy. It's crazy talk.
Yeah. This elevator here is not going to the top floor.
No, and it skipped the 13th one too.
I and detectives were gone from the residence and only Alex remained. The evidence will show that the next day, I contacted Chandler Police to inform them that Charles' belongings were still at the hotel.
Because I need to get them.
I asked the detective if I should go get them, and I was told that they would take care of it.
We got it.
The evidence will show that I asked the detectives, what should we do next?
Wait till
And
you're
they
arrested.
directed us that they would contact us in about 3 weeks after their supervisor passed off their reports, and Alex could go to the police station and retrieve his gun. The evidence will show that the last thing I heard from Chandler Police Department until June of 2021, 2 years later,
We
when I
lied.
received a grand jury indictment from them for this alleged crime.
Yep.
The evidence will show that Chandler Police treated this incident as self-defense.
I'm going to object to that.
The objection sustained. The jury should disregard that last statement.
The
Oops.
evidence will show you that my brother, Alex Cox, passed away on December 12th, 2019, almost exactly 5 months to the day after Charles, my husband, passed away.
And he was greeted by
The
Satan.
evidence will show that Alex passed away from a blood clot in his lung.
Objection again.
I'll sustain the objection. It's not relevant for this matter.
The evidence will show you that I am the only person being charged with this crime.
I have an
Only one
objection
left.
relevant to that.
Yeah, who else are you gonna try?
As the state has mentioned, they're alleging that insurance money was my motive.
Go figure.
Social Security was my motive.
Yep.
Spouses having insurance policies is not a crime.
That's true.
Collecting Social
Unless you kill your
Security is not a
spouse.
crime.
Unless you kill your husband
Self-defense
for
is
it, yeah.
not a crime. A family tragedy is not a crime.
Wow.
Let's try.
It's a tragedy. Thank you.
And thank you for listening. I'm
I
on
mean,
reflect.
I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. A family tragedy. I mean, she's the one that created the tragedy. The only tragedy here is her and Chad.
It's a family tragedy. She got caught.
Yeah, the evidence will show that she's a convicted murderer, serving life in prison for the murders of her children, and you know, God forbid that she takes any accountability. Not that it really matters, but because what's done is done, and it's not going to change a thing. And so many people are just affected and left holding whatever it is that they have to hold on to of the. I mean, what she did to her children is it's heinous. I don't even know a better word to describe it, because I just don't I don't understand the whole dismembering and setting on fire and I just don't get any of that. It makes absolutely no sense. I mean, she's saying that, oh, she's a zombie or possessed or whatever, but where, like, in what world is that, you know, look, I've seen some crazy people in my life, you know, I mean, who hasn't, but to think that way about your own children, you know, and then to go to the depth that she went to, I've just never, and then just the constant lies about it too. That's what really gets me. I mean, is there any chance that she's found innocent here? I couldn't imagine.
Well, there's always a chance. You never say never. You just hope that the state puts on the case correctly, appropriately, and within, you know, the parameters of the law. And then when on the other side, if you end up losing this case to this nut job, you might as well get out of the business.
I would think so.
You know, so do I think there's a chance? I never say never, but in this case, probably not.
That's what I was kind of thinking, you know, with jury trials and things, there is always a there's always a chance with jury trials, but
I've lost.
yeah. And yeah, like, you know, everybody thought OJ was going to be found guilty, and then everybody thought that Casey Anthony was going to be found guilty, and there's a
Well, look at how many people are defending in totality. I mean, not just on the internet and social social media. Look how many are defending BK.
Oh,
Okay,
he's got a fan club that will chase you around.
there you go. And look at Luigi. I mean, they got him on camera shooting some guy in the back, executing him. And, they're having, they're wearing little Luigi hats at these local protests, at the Tesla protest. People sometimes, I don't know. I don't get it.
No, I don't get it either. I don't get it either. But with I don't know a lot of people that think she's innocent though. I mean, have you ran into any?
That thinks she's innocent?
Yeah.
Well, not now. She's been convicted.
Well, before that, I mean, I didn't know. I
No,
haven't heard anybody.
you're right. I mean, it's there's this idea of, we got to give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, fine. Give them the benefit of the doubt. But what happens, you ever notice those people go away? When where do they go? They go on to the next one. Where do they go? Okay. I mean, what's going to happen if Brian Koberger's convicted? All the people that were saying, well, he's innocent, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, then what do you do now? Where do you go once he's been convicted? And at that point, it's a hollow argument, right?
It's on to the next one. Yeah. I mean, they always say, well, here comes the appeal and those things take forever. But when and if he is convicted, and look, everything that's coming out about him, it's getting harder and harder for me to take the argument that he was set up serious. I can't, I don't
Look,
put stock
put
into
your seatbelts on. Right, Josh, right? Put your full harness on. All of those people that are defending him, I will assure you, when it goes to trial and all of these revelations, whatever they might be, and I'm convinced that he was obsessed with who, Ted Bundy. And when it all unfolds, okay, everybody's going to go, what? Okay. And when that all unfolds and it all happens and everybody goes, what? Okay. Remember, I was one of the first ones to say that, because 2.5 years ago, I saw that they did the Amazon search warrant. Okay. Well, been there, done that. And you're searching for certain things and all the Google searches and everything. And my theory at the time was, I bet you're looking for the knife. Okay. And everybody, hammered me. A lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people said, oh, what do you know? I don't know. 42 years in this business, I'm still working on a daily basis as an investigator. Met with some people today, actually. And what I do, where I work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so I'm not retired. I mean, yeah, I'm retired from working, with the PD, but I'm not retired. I'm still working cases.
And solving them, by the way.
And solving them and testifying in court and doing all the stuff that these other people do. And that's, forget, enough about me. I don't have anything to prove. Okay. But when you get out there and you're sticking yourself out there in the world and you're saying, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. Okay, well, then what happens when you're wrong? Okay. What happens when you're wrong? Okay. People got mad at me during the Gabby Petito case when I said, I won't be surprised that the family is helping. They went nuts. Okay. And, attacked me. They came this and that. And guess what happened? Yeah.
Burn after reading.
But yeah.
Burn after reading.
Thank you. And so those are the kind of things where it's like, we're just not pulling the stuff out of our hats. And when you see this happening like this, where Lori, standing in front of a group of men who think, she's going to wave her hair back and her marbles are going to shake while she's doing it, and then go, well, this is how I got everybody else into my circle, i.e. Chad and the other 4 other, suckers in her life. And women get it. Women see through her immediately.
Oh, I've noticed that women are far more disgusted with her than men, because you're right. They, first of all, there is this, I guess, for lack of a better term, fraternity of motherhood, of mothers that carry and you know bore their children and are supposed to protect and raise them, and women are disgusted by her. Men are too, but it's more like, well, she's a nut, because she is. But it's even deeper than that. It's a deeper outrage amongst women, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean, look at the cases we've looked into, right? You, me, others. Hey, what did I say about Sebastian Roberts or Sebastian Rogers? Excuse me. Don't leave the house. Don't leave the house. What did they just do? Did they do a search warrant over there recently?
No, what they did was, it was actually, what they served was, I believe it was a subpoena, but they've searched that house, they say 13 times.
There you go.
Yeah. They're not leaving the house.
Same with Summer. I just saw somebody put in their chat about Summer. Don't leave the house. Okay. Meaning the people in that house know what happened. It's just a matter of figuring out how you're going to figure out how to get them to tell you what happened. That's it. We got close with Summer, with Candace. That was the closest we got. I've stayed out of the Sebastian Rogers case.
Mm-hmm.
I got Baskin Robbins on my mind. I'm teasing.
Yeah, you're hungry.
But I've stayed out of that case on purpose because I know you've been talking to the dad, Seth. I've been talking to him behind the scenes for quite some time. And you know what? The Lord will open a door. It's just a matter of being patient. And once that door's open, you just have to be wise enough to hear it, feel it, and then feel the wind coming through and go in. I had a case one time. I haven't told this story, where one of my partners, actually was his case. It was Mike. His name was Mike Peretta. And we had a dead guy in a dumpster behind a Ralph's grocery store. He was wrapped up in plastic, duct taped, and he looked like a mummy. And he was stuck in this dumpster, and he was down at the bottom, and a homeless guy found him digging for cans, basically. Long story short, fast forward. And we're up in Long Beach doing some search warrants up there. And this gal walks in, and Mike and the guys I was with, as she comes in, Mike says, "Hey, can you get her horsepower?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And I said, she was a blonde and, whatever. And she hands me, I said, "Let me see your driver's license." She hands it to me. And I said, "Oh, okay." And I start writing it down. She goes, "Well, don't you know who I am?" And I looked at her and I said, "Am I supposed to?" And she goes, "Yeah, it's me." And I was like, "Well, who the heck are you?" She goes, "Phoebe." I said, "Well, that's not what's on your driver's license." She goes, No. I'm Lisa Kudrow from Friends." I said, "Oh, okay. And?" She goes, "You don't recognize me?" I said, "Am I supposed to? Do you know the dead guy in the dumpster? Do you know his name was Lance?" I said, "Do you know Lance?" She goes, "Well, I don't want to talk about that." I said, "Okay, well, I'm not asking you other than, I'm supposed to know you." Okay. But the narcissistic personality types of, "You're supposed to recognize me." This is Lori. She's like, "Don't you know me? This is everybody else's fault but me." Other capers, and by the way, that, we solved that. Guy's in custody for shooting a guy. It was a problem. And they killed him up in Long Beach, and they wrapped him up, and they drove him down to our city and threw him in our dumpster. Okay. And, but we're supposed to recognize everybody in between. This is just when that show, I guess, was taken off. And I don't watch a lot of TV, and I didn't then, and I still don't today. I get, I don't know what it is, but
You like books.
I read a lot of books. Look at all these books behind me. I read a lot of books. And so Lori's just this kind of person that's, she's just out there.
Oh, dude.
She
In
is.
the worst way, man. In the worst way. And I love that you say, hey, do you know who the dead person is? Like, who cares who you are? I mean, it could be Prince standing there and you're like, who cares? It's not important. And actually, I find it kind of charming sometimes when I see like videos of like celebrities when they're like caught in a situation and they don't say who they are, they don't mention who they are. They just I find that sort of endearing. But and then I find it the complete opposite when they're like, well, you don't know who I am. It's like, even if you did, who cares? Like,
When I was in Vice, right? When I was in Vice, 84 to 86, my supervisor walks to me and my partner. He says, "Hey, you two knuckleheads are going to go down by the pier, and they're filming a movie." We're like, "For what? Why are we going to go down there?" He says, "Well, they got a bunch of stars down there, and you two guys are going to go stand around and just, keep an eye on it." Okay. So this is when they were filming Top Gun with Tom Cruise. And the scene of him coming up the hill on the motorcycle to the blue house where Kelly McGinnis was sitting?
Uh-huh.
Well, it took them 4 days to film those scenes out there. And that house is still there. You can go to Oceanside and it's still there. They call it the Top Gun house. Okay. So I spent 4 days with Kelly McGinnis and Tom Cruise. Ask me if they said hello.
Well, knowing anything about Tom Cruise, I would imagine that he ignored you like the plague.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be a nice guy too. And I didn't know who he was. He had just filmed that movie with, where he slides in his chonies. And
Was that the Cocktail?
Something like that. I don't remember which one it was, but I had no idea who the guy was. But I know I was supposed to take a bullet for him if something happened down there. And, anyway, he didn't say a word, nothing, zip, zero. And, there you go.
Risky business was risky.
Yeah, there is Kelly. There she goes.
Yeah, right. I know. That's what I'm telling you is that, like, just everything that I've ever heard about the guy, he just sounds like insufferable, just to the max. But you're supposed to jump in front of you're supposed to jump in front of him and sacrifice your life for a guy who won't even acknowledge that you exist.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, because they all knew that we were there, right? For what we were supposed to be there for, right? And we were in the way. Basically, we were in the way. So,
did you meet Val Kilmer when you were there? Because Val just passed away.
I did. No, I didn't see him. We were only there during the motorcycle scenes and them sitting on the porch where they're having their little romance on the porch at sunset. We were there for all of that, but it was only during the day too. Nothing at night. So,
yeah. Wow. No, I just think you think Lori thinks she's a celebrity like that?
Oh yeah, in her head. Yeah, this like Ted Bundy. Ted impressed the court, right? Ted impressed the court.
Did he though?
Oh yeah, the judge was enamored by him. He said, and he told him. I mean, there's a famous, concept where the judge had told him. He said, Mr. Bundy, I wish you would have gone a different direction because you would have made a fine lawyer. and I would have loved to have you practice in front of me in my court. He told them that. Yeah. Meanwhile, the guy has, killed 30-something women, cut the heads off of some of them, brought them home. He threw one of the heads in one of his girlfriend's fireplaces.
Yeah. It would be weird to compliment the guy. I can tell you that. And Kelsey makes a good point. So much so that Christ comes to her jail cell.
Yeah.
Talk to her.
Well, the Lord comes to everybody's jail cell, right? And that's a great point, Kelsey. But at the same time, right? I think we all know, in her mind, she thinks it's literal, right?
Yeah.
And in our minds, we know that that's kind of a long shot, because she can't ever participate in totality in the repentance process, because you have to restore life, and, that's where the Lord says, the greatest gift I give unto you is life. Second unto that, okay, is the ability to choose. And you have, moral agency. What do you want to do with that life? And how do you want to choose it? And if you make mistakes, you tell them you're sorry, you return what you stole, or you try to make, peace with who you broke. If you've screwed up somebody else, apologize to them and say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I was wrong. That was inconsiderate of me. I should never have said that. I should never have done that. Forgive me." And then, you're forgiven, right? So, but for her, I mean, she's so Looney Tune. She's taken religion to a whole nother level. And
I told you this. I told you this when we talked about it. I said that people like her that give religion just a terrible name. I mean, you can just take all the religious stuff out of it. She uses that for her wacky interpretation of the world. I mean, it just casts this really negative light on religion in general, just as a whole. Doesn't matter what denomination, or it's just, this isn't a religion, this is a cult.
yeah, well, for her, yeah, it's a subset of this, idea, right? And I mean, I'll give you an example, like in the Emily Pike case that I'm working through right now. And I would encourage you to also start working through it, because these Indigenous women are invisible to the world. And I've got a really cool video dropping tomorrow, where I was back out at the crime scene trying to study the geographical profiling aspect of what the killer was thinking, right? And in the Native American philosophy and life, okay, somebody cannot pass what they call over the river, okay, into eternal life unless they're whole. And that's why there's such a press to find the rest of Emily. Okay. And there's a gal on the video tomorrow who is from a tribe in Oklahoma. And she's there with me. And we're talking about the significance of that. And, that in comparison to what Lori only sees the evil. Okay? The evil. Think about what was driving her. She's only looking for the evil spirits, the light, the dark. Chad's writing books about, the second coming, the last days, and he's been chosen to write these, Looney Tune books, and that, she's buying right into it. I mean, that's where they met, at a book signing, right? Oh, tell me about all your visions, Chad. Okay. And then she buys off into it, she takes a piece of her religious philosophy and adapts it to this evil intent, where she starts seeing only evil in front of her. I mean, she's seeing zombies, light, dark. She's giving them scores. Right. She's even seeing her kid, right? She's even seeing her kid. you know, and that is, you know, that's difficult stuff. And look how it's even progressed to today. This is what Tylee saw. Tylee saw, Mom, take responsibility for what you're doing. Take responsibility for, you know, the problems that you've caused. I'm not a zombie, Mom. I'm Tylee. I'm your daughter. I'm okay. I'm going to go off to school. I mean, she had these visions of going off to school, and, you know, she was looking forward to getting out of that environment and the situation. Can you imagine the terror in her eyes? Is either Alex, Chad, and probably Lori present? And
I couldn't imagine that she wasn't.
well, and think about, this is the same woman today that's looking for empathy within inside of that courtroom, recognizing wholeheartedly she took her daughter to one of the most famous parks in the United States of America to see, you know, Old Faithful, to see the wild animals. I mean, it's almost like this, well, we'll kind of take them to Disneyland just before we kill them.
Right. One last hurrah.
Who does that?
Lori does that
She's a sick puppy.
big time.
And, you know, I just want the opportunity to watch him zap her one time in the courtroom.
Make you feel good.
Just, I'll get a warm and fuzzy.
I
right?
mean, look, how could you not? I mean, like, just the, you know, it's so much like that. The event that happened, you know, and I keep going back to the event with her children because it's unfathomable. But I mean, they're responsible for many other things. But the fact that she had the nerve to blame her daughter for their death is beyond me. I mean, it's infuriating that she would take every ounce of life and dignity from her child, who was probably terrified of her mother. Terrified. Can you imagine, like, your own mother looking at you and going, "You're possessed, you're a zombie, you're not," and you're going, "Mom, no, I'm not," because she knows what she's capable of. She knows that she's not well. She knows that she's, you know, all these things, and you're just going, and then you're gonna blame her for it. It's disgusting. She's a terrible person. I hope they shock the pee water out of her.
Let's remember also in the last trial, she had access to all the autopsy pictures,
Yep.
all the crime scene pictures. I mean, we're talking about a mother who went through all the evidence and reviewed it and looked at her dead child, looked at her dismembered child, looked at her child wrapped up, how they found him. And what does she do? She doesn't miss a beat. Oh, well, we got flip-flops so we could walk Tylee or walk JJ into school. Really? Yeah.
And the chicken fingers too. I mean, it's just, but we'll keep an eye on this, and I will also check into the I know you've been doing shows about was it what was her name?
Emily Pike.
Emily Pike. Yeah. I caught a little bit of your show about her, and I think Justin might be covering it too, actually.
Good.
Yeah. And so
Everybody should cover it because you know, she's invisible, and we need to bring a lot of attention to her case. So
very good.
Hey, bud.
I thank you so much for coming on.
Always, you know, how about some more invitations? Would you, Chicken Lips?
I absolutely will. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, but do not wear that Giants hat next time. Get yourself a Boston Red Sox hat, and we'll go down together. Lab Rats,
Shake
thank
my
you
hand.
so much for being patient with everybody tonight. We sure appreciate everybody.
Everybody's been great. The chat's been great. And they've, you know, you guys are the best chat around. So,
All right, bro.
all right, man. Take care.
Yep. Bye.
Chris McDonough of the interview room. He is the man. I appreciate him. I appreciate everybody else being here as well. And we will catch you on the next one. We'll get Chris on the show more. He wants on more. I want him on more. Let's do it. Thank you guys so much.